All right, we are going to bring the Parks and Recs Committee meeting to order. Start with roll call.
Steve.
Here.
Andrew.
Here.
Seth.
Here.
Emma.
Here.
And Cindy.
Here.
All right. Moving on to agenda item number 2, first period for public comment. Is there anybody online, Nate? Or if either of you would like to speak?
Steve, it doesn't seem like anybody online wishes to make a public comment at this time.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, approval of committee minutes from March 25th, 2025.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve the minutes from March 25th.
Cindy, I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item number 4, discussion with possible action on scholarship form and eligibility.
Yeah, so I brought this to you guys today to get your thoughts on this. We've in normal past years we have a hardship scholarship form. So that's for anybody that requests help with signing up for summer programs, or that's any program that we offer through the Park and Rec. So looking at it this year, we received a couple, not a handful. So it's never that many. But we do receive about a handful or so each year. And this one came on because I wanted to get your guidance and how you guys feel about it. So, everything's through Viroqua Park and Rec for Viroqua community, but we do open it for anybody from Reedstown, Genoa to Westby. But before the scholarship came in, there was a person from Westby. So I'm like, well, I didn't know how to handle that situation because, again, it's the taxpayers that help these programs. So that's where I'm trying to get a guidance before we revise this, because we're using an old one. Like Lori knows, it's probably 15, 20 years old. It's just a blank sheet. We're not really asking for a lot of things. It's more whoever kind of fills it out gets accepted. But before I spend time revising it and getting thoughts from other communities on how they do it, I wanted to get your thoughts if it's just something that you think we keep it within the Viroqua community, the people that pay taxes for it, or if somebody from Westby or Genoa would fill it out, would we accept it from them as well? I know it's hard. It's one of those hard questions, but I wanted to ask you again before I start working on it.
Is it a percentage or a certain dollar amount?
So right now they fill it out and we waive the fee for the whole year for as many programs as they sign up for. It is something me and Nate have talked about. Do we go to percentage? But again, I didn't want to put all this work in before we kind of have this discussion on how you guys would like to see it. And again, we don't have to make a decision here. I can put some rough drafts together, but my main question is, because I started looking around in most other communities, and these are communities I just put in like any scholarship form. So it's Minnesota to Milwaukee and stuff. And most of those are for their community because, again, it's the tax base that helps them. But again, us being a small department, we don't get a lot from Westby, Genoa, Reedstown, but we get a few. So again, I just need some direction.
Just curious how many children or youth enroll in Park and Rec that are from other communities in total? Like what percentage? Like, is it mostly Viroqua residents or?
Yeah, I would say it's less than 1% that come from other communities. So it's not a big number.
Kale, when you say that you're including, like, that includes township kids that might be in Jefferson.
Yeah. So that, yes.
Personally, I would not want to see a kid not be able to do something in the summer. I mean, if it's a handful, it's not like you're having 100 kids apply for it.
Yep.
So I would not want to think that we would deprive someone from, or the outlier areas of not being able to have an activity in the summer. So
I would concur with AJ's thought. I guess I was just kind of thinking about it as to whether or not we do 100% coverage for tax-based individuals, and then if parents are willing to put in the effort to travel down from those locations, but they could still be responsible for a percentage of it. But I'm with AJ that it's not the kids that we want to take it up on.
Everybody get that? I think what I heard Seth getting at is that was something I was going to suggest. Like, if you do 100% for Viroqua, city of Viroqua kids, you could do 95% for non-city of Viroqua, just so there's still an acknowledgement that families who are already paying into the tax base have already paid into a program, and so should get a discount over families who have not paid in to the program through their taxes. So I think that's probably a pretty simple thing.
Yeah,
Correct.
I was just thinking about there's a difference between resident and non-resident fee anyway. I don't know what it is, like say it's $10 or something, like that would be an appropriate amount. It's just like the non-resident fee that goes on top of it.
Right.
Just an idea.
I like AJ's thoughts, but there's nothing on that form that would tell us if we can afford it or not.
Are we still working with the school to identify if they're like a free or reduced lunch kid?
No.
Or we stopped doing that?
Yeah. I think because I reached out to Boone and asked him how he did it. He was kind of like AJ. If somebody would come and ask for it, he didn't deny anybody. So that's how I went last year and this year. And he had mentioned that something with the school district, it just wasn't working out, and so he just kind of went that way. So we were just working on, again, a more formal form than the one we currently have. But in regards to the resident and non-resident, I wanted to ask you before I put something together.
When I'm offering these suggestions, I'm all for like opening the doors for kids to participate in activities. Like I have very little filter on that, but another way as an income level would just be looking at their Medicaid. I don't know if you're already collecting health insurance information. Like, is that something on the forms, like in the event that there's a injury? I know sometimes with those park and rec camps, they'll ask for that information, but that Medicaid income level is typically right around where the free and reduced lunch is, give or take.
Nate, could you say your idea again? Or Seth's idea?
Yeah, I mean, it was very simple, is that if we're currently doing 100% for kids who are residents of the city of Viroqua, we would do like 95% for kids who aren't members of the city of, or aren't residents of the city of Viroqua, or as Emma put it, just charge, if for city of Viroqua residents, it's $0, charge 10 kids to the $10 for the kids who are out of town.
And that'd be like the one time, no matter how many events they're in or programs they're in.
I think
or
it's
is
per,
it
I
per,
think it would be per program.
and then
Yeah, we'd have to look at that. The city would be 0 for every program.
I- kind of services, buddy.
And as far as confirming their income, I mean, if they're, sorry,
Try again.
can you get a clean read on what I'm saying now?
Kinda.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I was just going to add that if the effort to think is worth it, if they're think that is fine. Sorry, guys, that can be done.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I-
Seth, we might, why don't we
I-
give it a couple minutes and then we'll get back to you on your thought.
I think what he's saying is if they're going through the effort to fill out the form, I don't know if they have to prove anything, right?
Right.
Like, I kind of agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, that was my intention on the thought.
Okay. How would it affect, like, say we do charge money and these kids don't sign up, does it affect the, like, essentially the health of our programs? Like, we don't have enough kids then that should have, that show up for certain events, or like, would we not have enough people to field a baseball team?
I don't think there's that many that.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think there hasn't been,
Right.
but again, with the economy, you never know. Next year, it could be,
Right.
a lot more, but
Do we need to put a cap on it
Yeah.
as far as like how many participants can get this scholarship?
I was thinking about that too, but I don't know. That's a lot of work and I don't know how to go about that because, our summer one is big, but then we have a small fall for, flag football and stuff. So
My only thought
Put it-
was that it would be residents first, and then
open it up.
outside- Yeah.
So just the scholarship form itself.
Yeah, just like, I don't know if you have, is 10 kids too many? Is it too little? Like, I
Right.
don't know how many we can afford to, you know what I mean? To
Mhm.
keep the health of the program. Public comments afterwards, so. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, what are we looking for? You said you wanted to.
Just
some
discussion
direction.
right now. Like I said, I was going to put something together and bring it back to you guys.
So your question, Kale, is whether there's something fundamentally that needs to change about the way that the scholarship program is working, specifically in relation to the kids outside of the area that would
If
require you
we-
to go invest time in, or is it generally okay where it's sitting right now?
Yes. Do you guys want to keep it the same? That's fine. Or do you want me to put in there something for non-residents because the taxpayer? That was my big question. Like, do we leave it open to everybody? Or being in city function, taxpayer dollars, do we give?
I personally would like to see a minimal amount increased for out of taxpayer region and then keep it fully supported for taxpayers.
I think we need to set a limit how many you give out.
That's kind of, I mean,
And if word
it
gets
hasn't
out,
been abused, but yeah, if it
yeah,
does
gosh,
get abused, then. Yeah, so I don't know if,
Going to be saying, oh my gosh, everybody's asking, what am I doing?
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't really advertise it. We put it in the activity guide and saying there, but we don't like, here's the time to register for hardship scholarship forms. So
well, I'm just
I don't
wondering
know if a lot of people do know about it.
that's the thing. I was wondering if we did advertise it, would there be more people willing, like, in our city that would want to maybe do some things?
Yeah.
So then we'd probably need like some sort of formal process to go through.
I would stick with not advertising and just making it available.
I mean, we could do that too. Because it doesn't seem like it's necessarily broke as it is.
No.
I still think a limit on how many might be a good idea. Help you out.
Have we ever scholarshiped more than 10 players or participants in any one season?
I couldn't, since I've been here, no, but I couldn't tell you in the last 20 years.
Do we just set it the first 10 tax-paying participants is the limit?
Well, we could, but then that doesn't answer the out of the city resident, non-resident, I guess, participant.
Right, but we'd also have that adder for any non-resident, and if they fulfill all the scholarship with 10 in tax paying, then there wouldn't be any available to out of town. But that out of town would have a minimal increased rate over free.
Right.
I think there's lots of good considerations. I think unless it becomes a real issue and problem, we're just getting a lot of requests. Like if it's just an occasional thing and it's not necessarily widely advertised, I think it's just worth having a certain generosity around it. Cause I'm just thinking about a kid who's like making the effort to come all this way, wants to play sports. And I think relative in this area, like the difference of $10 or $40 can be a big deal in a budget sometimes. So I'd rather just, we don't have to advertise it. We don't have to make a big deal, but if suddenly we're getting a bunch of interest, then we may need to revisit the policy. And I think that's something we can even do in the moment as it happens, right?
Yep.
Suddenly there's like 10 kids from Westby, then we can have a different conversation then.
Yeah, but that won't help him at the moment.
We just-
We'll just keep it the same as it is right
Keep it
now.
the
And if it comes up again, we can, like, if in the next, like, cause enrollment just
It's
closed.
ending. Yeah.
It's ending, yeah. So what I'm saying, if like next year we get a bunch of interest, I think we're in a position that we can always go back and contact the families and if we need to and make an adjustment at that time if it's an issue. But if it's not an issue, I don't want to put a barrier on like the 1 or 2 kids that might make use of that program.
I think we should just say 10, whether in town or out of town. And then see how that is. I mean, doesn't sound like that'll change a thing at the moment, but that'll give him something. If all of a sudden he's got 20 asks, the first 10, then at least he can.
Want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that we limit the, what did you call it?
Hardship scholarship form.
Hardship scholarships to 10 requests, I guess, first come, first serve, as a test case. A review again next year.
Could we add to that motion, like prioritizing residents first and then non-residents? Do you know what I'm saying?
Let's talk to Cindy. She's the one that
Oh.
makes the motion here.
I'm not adding that,
Okay.
no.
I'll just keep it.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
This is AJ. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, I guess all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Sounds like the ayes have it, so keep it the same with limit of 10 prior, or we're not doing the prioritize. So,
And review it again next year.
okay, we'll
So-
review it again.
So Kale, you got your question answered on, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you're keeping it,
Keeping
because
it
it wasn't clear,
static.
it's keeping it the same for both the out of city kids. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
All right, thank you guys. Item number 5, discussion with possible action on donation deposit into Park Bowl designated fund balance for speakers and field updates.
So I'm asking you guys today we just sold our old pitch count machine. It was the add-on to the old scoreboard that we took down this winter. Stoddard Baseball bought that from us. I put it out to all the townships and cities and local baseball and softball clubs. And softball, and Stoddard came back and asked if they could purchase that. So they wrote us a check this week for $2,000 for that pitch count. I'm requesting from you guys, instead of it going back to the general fund, if we could use that money to update the speakers at the baseball field. Currently, the speakers on the concession stand don't work. So we are using the Legion speakers. And they're big, heavy speakers that we haul down and put outside on the viewing deck. So I'm hoping to work with the baseball, the school district, the Legion, that we can all come together and purchase new speakers for that. just to make it easier for all of us. If it rains, we have to cover them. And then sometimes they don't work. So we're trying to get a better system down there. So I'm hoping this money could go towards that. So I'm asking you guys to, if that's possible, if you guys could request that 2,000. And I forgot to even ask Nate, if we could even do that, but I wanted to ask you guys.
Do you know how much new speakers would cost?
I haven't looked yet. I was hoping like, 3,000 to 5,000. Because I don't think we need the system itself. I'm hoping the system, well, no, I take that back because that would have to go back to Legion. So I haven't looked yet, but we don't need something huge. We just need something out there. So I was hoping between 3,000 and 5,000 with help from the Legion and the school district.
And then, sorry, just is the hope then that the Legion would then use that system as opposed to the one they have? All right.
Yep.
Is that possible, Nate?
Are you gonna say something? Oh, sorry.
I can say something after you say yes or no, how it would work.
So just for clarity, the general question is whether or not by you selling this other item and getting revenue for it that is in addition to what was in your budget, that you can then spend that money on other items not currently in your budget. Or am I missing you?
Well, if I could just use that 2,000 that we got from Stoddard to put it directly into our park bowl account fund.
Well, I mean, if it's going into a park bowl account fund, it can generally be used for park bowl related items. I mean, I don't see a problem.
What happens normally is it goes into sale of city property,
Sure.
and he is asking to go into directly into his non-lapsing fund, which we would designate just for
Yeah.
park. So that's what he's asking for, not
Gotcha, more
necessarily, yes,
More
because
specific.
he has one already set up for park improvements. This would just adding another 2,000 to it.
What if
with-
we, I mean, I've never, I can't remember an instance in the past where we've had a city department sell a piece of property and then what becomes of it? It just goes into the general fund?
It just goes in the general fund under sale of city property.
Okay.
And he's asking to designate it specifically to his
Right,
department.
and what I guess the reason I posed my question the way that I did is when we look at people's budget, it is often the case that additional revenues come in specifically for a purpose, and as long as the revenue matches your additional expenses, this happens with grants, right? Most typically, then it's like, yep, that the net zero balance of your budget doesn't change because you have offsetting revenue, offsetting expenses. But in this particular instance, you're talking, is there because it's specifically sale of city property, and historically the precedent has been sale of city property just goes back into the general fund and sits there to support the cash reserve.
That is correct.
And that's what's been done in the past. Yeah, so it's not so much about what I say, it's about what past precedent has been said. And the council has the ability to,
It can't go into a specific department without going through this process.
oh,
And especially if he's putting it into a non-lapsing fund to use for other purposes, it has to be restricted for just those purposes. Otherwise, it has to be a sale of city property for the general fund. Just like if we
right,
sell anything out of the old city hall, that all went in there. We can't turn around and use it to buy chairs just for city hall. It has to be designated that way.
right.
that's why he's
we would
bringing it
go
up.
to a body, the council, and say, hey, can we redirect this money for that? That's what we're doing here tonight.
Correct. So if you guys decide to do that, then it would go up to council to decide that, yes, that's an ability to do that.
Okay.
I have a question though. What happens if we don't get support from the other entities to buy speakers? Then what happens to the money?
It would just stay in that non-lapsing fund, which he already has for park improvements or whatever for the park bowl. You're just designated it to go into that particular account, and it would be restricted specifically for that and be used for stuff that would be
But it
down
wouldn't
there.
have to be specifically for speakers.
Correct.
Okay.
You could say that it's just going to be designated into that non-lapsing fund.
I was curious, it makes it more difficult, but shouldn't the Legion help pay for these? Isn't there
I think that's what he's asking.
That's
Like
what I'm asking.
he wants to do that.
the Legion? Oh,
I would ask the
would
Legion
ask the
and
Legion.
the school
you did
district.
say that.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Yes, you did say that.
I was just didn't know if it had to be
Yeah.
specifically for speakers, or if it could go, I'm all for it because I feel like,
I don't know, it seems pretty good.
yeah,
I mean, the sound system, I've never heard it not work, but I trust you, I'm sure. So is the pitch count automatically on the new sign?
Yes.
Cool. So what do you need from us?
I a motion to,
Motion to
Set it
allow
up.
him to spend
yeah,
put the $2,000 into what account?
Into the non-lapsing segregated restricted account for park pool improvements.
Non-lapsing segregated.
Well, you don't have to get that
Segregated account.
specific, but that's, you're putting it into the segregated account towards
$2,000.
park pool improvements.
Sale of the pitch count to the non-lapsing fund for Park and Rec. That's my motion.
This is Seth. I'll second that.
And then this would need a roll call
roll
vote.
call vote. You got it.
Andrew,
Well,
Aye.
oh, sorry, did you have,
I was gonna see if there's any more discussion.
oh,
but
sorry,
Doesn't sound like there is any. We'll go ahead with the roll call.
Andrew,
Aye.
Seth,
I
Emma,
I,
Cindy,
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye. And that moves on to council then. All right, thank you.
Have you had any conversation with the Legion yet or?
No, I was waiting to
Okay.
kind of hear from this.
Right. Number 6, update on Eckert Playground project with possible action.
Nate will show you a screen, but just an update on that. We met last week with our leadership team. We had Lee/Burke Playgrounds come and give a 45-minute discussion about their playground, and then we gave, we say it wrong, Copan. They also gave a 45-minute discussion on their playground. After that meeting, we had discussed the 2 playgrounds in depth, and we're bringing this playground to you guys for recommendation to work with Lee Burke to design a new playground at Eckhart Park. Again, this isn't the final design. This is just what they put together in the short time that we started working with them back a couple months ago. This is kind of just the ideas that we would like to see. But again, in no way, this is the final design. So we are meeting next Thursday with Burke, if it gets approved by you guys and council tonight, to start kind of laying it out, putting the trees in there, what trees are staying, just the total overall design of what that playground could be. So Nate, if you just want to scroll down, this is again, the grand overview, just different versions. Leadership team wanted a zip line, a spider climber, a big playground for the 5 to 12. That one I think has 5 slides right now. A central seating location. The mounds, the green kind of, the mounds with that around it, that's PIP. So that's safety surface. Again, that was just what they threw in right away. That hopefully will change over time. Sorry, you got a question? Okay. This one was, again, we kind of like this one because they had more ADA accessibility. So it's hard to tell, but you can go up like 2 different levels on the 5 to 12 to kind of get you up, and there's a wheelchair swing. And then there's that slide that Steve just pointed about too, that you can crawl up and then slide down and crawl up and slide down. So there was just more ADA that we liked on this one. And then if you want to key, both of them came in at what we wanted, a 600,000 budget. That's what we're shooting for, 600,000. And that all depends on, again, fundraising. We're hoping to, move this forward so we can get final drawings and bring back to the council, and then start fundraising. The goal again was, we were hoping for an October build. We still need to talk to them more closely on that. They think it's doable, minus the PIP safety surfacing. That has to be, the top layer of that surface has to go in when the temperatures are over, I think, 50 or 60. So October gets, could be a little colder. But they said something about if we did do it, if we were able to do it in October, they could pour that first layer and then come back in the spring and pour the second layer. But we still need to talk about if we can even do it in October, or if we need to look to maybe push it back to the spring of 2026. So that's kind of the questions Kim and Angie, I'm blanking, geez, it's been a long day, are here to answer any questions. They're both part of the leadership team as well. They put a lot of time and effort in this. So I want to thank them for that, but if you guys got any questions on that.
Just another, I guess, information about the company is they're based in Wisconsin, and all their stuff is made in Wisconsin as well. Their warranty is really good. If it breaks, they come out and they can fix it. Like, they don't put it on our park and rec department to fix it. So there was all these, I guess, bonuses of using a company based here in the state as opposed to Florida or elsewhere. But yeah, this one, because not only can you get up to use a slide if you're able to, but there's also one of those same kind of climbing. It's not a ladder. It's mostly like a surface where you can kind of inch your way up, but you can actually go up to another level as well. So, it's gonna be over on the other side of it. You can't see it on this side. It's right here. Up this, and then you can actually go up here as well.
And I think that height gets you up to, was it 16 feet or 14 feet? So, so it is a pretty high playground too.
That zip line is 100 feet long. Yeah.
Wow.
I was curious about the trees. How
Yeah.
many trees does this affect?
Well, it definitely, I think in this rendering, you'll see the seating area. So there's that one big oak that's in the middle, which has been kind of determined, like with the excavation of the old playground and the installation of this one. It's on the tree board actually thought it was a good idea to get rid of that one, mainly because they're gonna have to bore down into the ground. And anytime you do that, you could damage the root system, which you might not see any damage right away, but a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, you might. So Kale's concern was safety. You would hate for a new playground to be built and then have limbs come down on it. I think there was
Two over by
two
the
other
zip
ones,
line
yeah.
right now. Again, this footprint shows that those trees will be removed because that's what we had talked about for working with Leathers to kind of build that playground bigger. Until Burke comes out and does a final site plan and we determine if we can build around the trees, we don't know yet. Again, the recommendation from the tree board was to remove 3 of them. Again, my hope is we could possibly keep a few, but adults and a new playground. So again, I don't feel safe having those big trees, but we'll see what we can do moving forward with Burke and when they come out and do a site plan, if we move forward with them.
Yeah.
People do like shade too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, having raised 3 children and being heat sensitive, like if I look at that playground right now and there's no shade,
It's
that's,
really hot, doesn't it?
I'm not, I wouldn't be, I honestly just wouldn't
can
go there, and
Feel free. Come on up.
but
Well,
so I'm like, could we get a pergola? Could we get like any, also, I know.
again, those trees, there's other trees and bigger trees around the playground. This is just showing wide open of what the playground looks
It's
like.
just that trees make
And
this park. They
The
really
other
do.
thing is that we did talk about possibly, we don't know what's going to happen with that tree in the middle, possibly having some kind of overhang over the seating area. So we don't know exactly until we get the exact, that tree in the middle, the chances of damaging the roots when they have to take the other stuff out and prepare it are they're probably going to, and that's the hard thing, and you don't know. But then this obviously doesn't have any of the trees in because it's not, we'll put some trees in, but it's more like going to be showing you where the trees are. You lose what the playground is if you put the trees in because you can't have the overhead view. You'll lose all that. But for instance, if there's a tree in a spot, they'll be indicated that there is still a tree there.
Can I ask another question? I know you guys have worked so hard on this, and so
It's all good.
I'm really also impressed with the way you pivoted halfway through with the new designer. So I apologize if you've discussed this before. The like imaginative play element of it, I don't know how much that was like spoken about with people's feedback with the older, like the Eckhart Park, but the little like the farm area and things like that. I was just curious, was that something people asked for, if it was incorporated here?
So if you're looking at this number one, the pre-K area, it is not going to look like that. They just put a couple of things in there for the design, but it isn't going to look like that. Like that's really minimal. And they're going to continue to create more items in that space. And the trees, this has been a big part of the discussion. There are some trees that are in this space that are not safe. 3 at least, if not more than that. So the conversation has been once they come and survey the space, that maybe the park moves a little bit. So that we can keep some of those trees depending on what they are. So what we had each of the businesses do is this was the footprint. So give me what you have in that footprint, with the understanding that after this land is surveyed, that it might move some so that those trees that are still dangerous are still going to come down, but that there's still some shade in this space. I don't know what that looks like. And that's been actually one of my fears going to the community and ask them for money, is because the first thing people are going to say are, where are the trees? So we discussed putting circles with an X. This will be a tree, but I'm even a little bit reluctant to do that, because then what if it's not? But the idea is that we will have trees in this space. I don't know how big they're going to be, but there's a lot of trees in that area right now. But it'll also depend on how they bore into the ground and what root systems are in that area. So this is a possible, it's not a, this might not be the layout, but this will be the equipment. That's the best way I can think of describing it. Would you agree with that, Kale? Steve, would you agree with that?
With
Yes.
a few changes here and there, maybe.
Like in that children's area, there are going to be changes there, but the equipment that you see on the other parts are going to be part of the playground. Where they're located may not look like this. For example, your web climber thingy is now connected to the actual playground and the proximity. If this has to be moved in a different space, it may look a little different. So I don't know how you all feel about presenting something like that to the community, that there may be changes. There will be trees. You know, that will be up to you all. But I knew it would be one of the first questions asked by our community, to where are the trees? It's important to me. It's important to us. I don't know exactly where they're going to be, but they're, And that's why we're even reluctant to put a circle with the trees. What if the tree isn't actually there? So it's more of an explanation every time you show this to somebody. There will be trees there. This may not be the exact layout. If that makes sense. It's been covered over and over and over again in our committee meetings.
I almost feel like with this town particularly, if there's any sort of like signage you'll have at the park or like a place to put bulletins, but having an explanation for people as to why, I mean, I think people here really are attached and there'll be your explanation makes perfect sense to me. I think the challenge is in communicating it with all of the care that went into it because people haven't been in the process. So I almost like, there's a plaque in the court, outside the court building. Do you know about this by the tree? I'm almost like, if you had a little plaque acknowledging that there were some trees, I think it might really help people move on. It sounds like extreme, but in this town, I feel like these are the kinds of things people get really concerned about.
So just real quick from a process standpoint, tonight's meeting, you're looking to get authorization from the Park and Rec Committee and then council to move forward with working with Lee Burke on continued design efforts. And some of the details that I think like Cindy brought up and other folks brought up about trees and exact positioning of this and that will be discussed amongst the steering committee, and then we'll come back to Park and Rec when we have a fuller design. And I think some of the conversations about trees will be sort of solidified at that point. Is that?
Yes.
I think
Correct.
that's what we had
Yep.
talked about. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
This is Emma, and I make a motion that Kale moves forward with Lee Recreation and the steering committee moves forward with Lee Recreation to continue on the design.
Say G, I'll second that.
Is Burke, how does Burke fit into that?
Yeah, it's I think they're the same. One's the rep and one's the company. So they're in
So
cahoots.
Lee Recreation and Burke.
Right.
Great. Okay.
Sorry, Seth's on my name. No, it's okay.
We also discussed perhaps bringing maybe one of the other components from the other playground that we looked at into this, which we can do. And Berkeley said that they would actually install that. Like there's this really cool wheel thing that they had. So we might be able to do some of that as well. So this is, I mean, I don't know how you present it. I don't know if you're saying that we can start with this company and spend money now to, they don't need to be paid, I don't believe, until
I think
it's a while.
it's when the equipment comes.
Yeah.
When is it?
It's when the
Until the materials come. But moving forward with it, just knowing that it is not going to look exactly like this and it may not be exactly in this location. But there may be another company that puts a few things in there because they had some pretty cool stuff too, depending on cost and how it all turns out.
I have to say, this is the first time I've actually seen a dragon. If you go to the first
Mm-hmm.
one, I actually could see it as a dragon now on the top. I'm like, none of the other ones, whenever I ever saw the dragon, and I'm
Mhm.
finally seeing it now.
And we
The
even
upper
talked,
right, where you got to the left side is the head, and then you got the tail that goes down in the slide.
right.
It's the first time I've actually seen a dragon.
And
I thought it
there's
was cool.
also maybe utilizing the dragon at the old park. And then part of the other conversation that we've had is, can we use this sale when you sell some of that park equipment for this project too? And I don't know if that's been discussed in this committee or not.
All right, we do have a motion. Any other discussion before we go to votes? So it's all those in favor?
I do roll call.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote.
I don't think there's dollars attached to it.
There will be, so that's why I figured you might want to do that.
But the design
We're just approving to
itself,
work with.
it does
Okay.
not have any fees. So that's a good point, Lori, is that unlike Leathers, where there was a design fee we had to lock into to have them do the work, any of the companies that you guys talked to did not have upfront design proposals that we had to walk into.
Correct. Can we have a voice vote, please? All those in favor?
Aye.
Seth?
I,
Oh, there it is.
And opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. So we'll move that on to council. Thank you, committee. Number 7, update on park and recreation outdoor comprehensive rec plan.
So just to give you a little update on that, Cindy and Nate could give an update as well because we met on Monday in regards to all the plans. We just received a snapshot of the survey, community survey. So they briefed us on that. A lot of good information in there. Was there like 300 survey results? 291 or but it was a good number of survey results. So they're working through that to put together the outdoor rec plan to the start of it. Not much other than that till they get boots on the ground. I think there's 2 days that they're coming to Viroqua. Hopefully myself and maybe some members of the Park and Rec team can show them around the parks. I'll have more information when that time comes, but that project is moving along nicely. So
Yeah, the survey results, just as an FYI, won't be available for a little bit because they also have to consolidate the paper copies. And they're just going to pick that up in a little bit, and they don't want to release any like preliminary data on any of the surveys until they have the complete stuff.
Are those included in that 291 number?
No, those would be on top.
Okay.
So yeah, we probably breached 300, which I think is around 7 to 8% of our total community population, which is a target that they were happy with and Plan Commission was happy with.
But isn't it interesting, the bike and trail or whatever, bike and whatever, the walking one we're gonna talk about tonight got 600 some?
Those were combined inputs, not just a survey.
Combined. Oh, you mean when you had the in-person stuff and,
So I think they're talking about all total like inputs that they've received. And so this is just one component of survey results. When they start showing
Oh,
up and
right.
getting
Oh,
input
okay.
in person, and things like that, that number will climb as
Oh, okay.
well. That's how, if I am understanding those numbers properly.
Thank you, Cal.
Yep.
Number 8, park and rec director updates.
So park updates, we've been busy with the weather changing, but back and forth with the rain, it's been hard to get stuff done. As you can tell, you'll probably see us this week out mowing the first round of parks. We started that yesterday and we're trying to get a first cut down because there's some areas that need it, some that don't. But we're just trying to get ahead of schedule on that. Good news, the bathrooms at Eckhart Park are open after a week long of trying to figure that out. We've had water leaks and all that, just old stuff that we're trying to, maintain and update. Me and Dustin are not plumbers, so a lot of trips back and forth to Nelson Agri Center to see what we could do. But as of right now, they are open. So if you have questions, concerns, let us know. Those bathrooms are open. The bleacher wall in front of the baseball field was engraved just 2 weeks ago, so that has all updated information. We're dealing with some dead trees throughout the city. One's at the baseball field. That's overlooking the viewing deck, that's behind the viewing deck. We were hoping to get it trimmed, and then the guy that we reached out to came and said it is dead and he doesn't feel safe climbing and trimming it. So we're working on getting quotes to see if we can remove that. Just again, it's a safety concern because a lot of that tree is overhanging the viewing deck. And then working with Sarah with the construction at Terhune Street, the retaining wall. We're working with that company to try to remove that retaining wall just to get it out of there. And then we'll look to either put a retaining wall back up or if we can grade it out just to buy us time. because their sidewalk is going right up to the old retaining wall. So I talked with Sarah and we're like, can we just remove that? So they're removing a part of that. It was hopefully today. I didn't look like it was removed yet. And then Public Works is going to come in and try to regrade that. So just a note on that, that we're moving ahead on that. But yeah, other than the rain, and we're just trying to get ahead and open things up, trash runs, mowing. We got our staff going, and it's a busy time for me because we're trying to get summer registration completed, but then we need to be out and about too. So, very hectic time. Any questions on parks or concerns that you guys have noticed out there? We're just tilling up the playground area too, so you'll see that if you're out at the parks. Recreation update, pickleball just ended for the spring session. We are not running a summer session, but it will be a drop-in sports, free just for anybody to come up and play. We still don't know how that's going to affect with our pickleball, because in before we've offered a fall, winter, and spring session. If Quillens does open that up to Park and Recreation again, that's going to be something we'll have to work and try to see. So based on budget numbers, our numbers will probably be down overall recreation if that happens, but we're in talks with them trying to figure out what could we do together to continue the pickleball. Registration numbers are good. We've had 740 people register. There's a lot of classes that are full or close to being full. Registration ends tomorrow. But our numbers look good right now.
700 separate people or 700 programs or 700 people in the,
740 different people have registered for programs. Yep, online. I think, well, yeah. That's everybody signing up for a class.
so it's not like one person signs up 5 times and that's counted as 5.
That I don't know. I'd have to look back. I think it's total registrations. And to date, well, the last 60 days, there was $28,845 that we deposited in. That is showing up on my rec desk. I'd have to check with Lori and see if that's accurate, but that's what's
It's
showing up
every
there.
day I get an email, 95, 240.
No.
It goes all over the place.
So again, golf, they have 2 programs that are already full. The one that I was soccer, the little soccers, the 3 to 5, we had 50 spots, and I think they're at 48 right now. The next soccer was full at 30, so I opened 5 more spots to see if we could get a few more. So numbers are looking good right now. However, baseball and softball, we were down this year. So we had to make some changes. So we combined some teams and merged some teams. So we're working that out right now. But normally we had 11 teams between baseball and softball. We'll have, I think, eight total teams now. So we're merging a few teams together. Just because we just don't have the numbers for every grade to have a team. So
How about the transportation, the busing?
transportation, we are going to continue that this year with Ridge and Valley only. Sending them to the again Ridge and Valley team, so that's Westby, the local communities. So currently we're going to continue with that.
Were any of the teams that you combined, does that affect the transportation or no?
No.
Okay.
No. So we kept all our Ridge and Valley teams. The independent teams are the ones that we won't have. So,
We used to.
yep. Like softball, we had 2 independent teams. We had to merge them with Ridge and Valley. And then baseball, the 10 and under, there's 2 10 and under teams. One's the local and one's the independent. We had 8 for Ridge and Valley and 9 for independent. So we could have had it, but they play on the same team, play on the same nights. So if somebody's sick, then we would have to, then normally we move somebody up and we can't move one person from that team up and then they won't be able to play. So it gets confusing. But yeah, other than that, recreation, the side of things is going well. We're getting staff letters out hopefully this week or next. Again, we should have a full staff. Again, my concern is watering flowers, but looking at it right now, we should have enough drivers, but I don't know until we kind of put it on paper and see how it goes.
Any other questions? Thanks, Kale. All right, moving on to second period for public comment.
Thank you. I wanted to let you know that the school district summer program, we do get quite a few students from outside of the area, and then they participate in Park and Rec. I didn't know if you all were aware of that or not. And so 40% of our students, a little over 40%, are on free and reduced lunch in our school district. And so that perhaps could affect some students that register. I would hate to see students not be able to participate because they don't have that $10 to participate. And I think that there's some other ways of looking into that, whether looking into the Viroqua Foundation, looking into something in order for students to break down those barriers so that students can participate if they want to. So I am a little bit disappointed in your 10-person limit, just because one year you might have a lot and one year you might not have any. All school districts in the area have declining enrollment. And if you look at it's already gone through and continuing through our elementary school. We have projections of what that's going to look like moving forward, but that's almost all schools across the country. There just aren't as many children being born. And so you're going to have some lower numbers for your younger kids moving forward, just to give you a little FYI. And merging and doing some things with some other communities locally might become something that you're going to look to in a little bit more depth going forward. But I just wanted to say that if a student cannot participate because of financial need, I would love for someone to reach out to me and work something out versus creating a line in the sand that we will not accept more kids because of inflation. Somebody might lose a job. It might come last minute. A lot of different reasons. So I just wanted to share that.
Is there anyone online?
Not look like anybody wants to make a public comment at this time. It's online.
All right. In that case, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Sage, I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Seth.
You bet.